Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into tonight's stories, I need you to do something for me. Look around your room right now. Check your windows. Make sure your doors are locked. Because these 7 stories are going to make you very aware of every sound your house makes tonight. These are real stories from real people who experienced something terrifying. Stories about the moment you realize you're not as alone as you thought. Stories about the sounds that shouldn't be there. The shadows that move when they shouldn't. The terrible understanding that someone is watching. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you're alone right now, maybe turn on some extra lights. Subscribe if you haven't already, because you're gonna want to hear how some of these people survived. Now let's begin. Story 1. The breathing at the window. This happened to me 3 years ago when I was living alone in a garden-level apartment in Portland, Oregon. My bedroom window was at ground level, opening onto a small patio area that was separated from the sidewalk by a waist-high fence. Not much privacy, but the rent was cheap and I was 24 and broke. I'm a light sleeper, always have been. So when I woke up at 2:47 a.m. to a sound I couldn't immediately identify, my eyes snapped open instantly. The sound was breathing. Not my breathing. Someone else's. Close. Too close. I lay frozen in my bed, trying to convince myself I was imagining it. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe it was my upstairs neighbor's dog. Maybe it was literally anything except what my lizard brain was screaming it was. Then I heard it again. A deep inhale, a slow exhale, the unmistakable rhythm of a person breathing. Coming from my window. My curtains were closed, but they were those cheap thin ones that let light through. And now that my eyes had adjusted, I could see a shadow on the other side. The silhouette of a head and shoulders. Someone was standing at my bedroom window. 2:47 in the morning. Breathing. I didn't move. Couldn't move. I just stared at that shadow, watching it shift slightly, and listened to that breathing continue. In. Patient. Steady. Like they had all the time in the world. My phone was on my nightstand. 6 feet away. Might as well have been 6 miles, because to reach it I'd have to move. And if I moved, whoever was at my window would know I was awake. The breathing continued for what felt like hours but was probably 5 minutes. Then, a new sound. Fingernails on glass. Not scratching, just tapping. Gentle, like someone testing to see if the window was locked. It was. Thank God, it was locked. The tapping stopped. The breathing stopped. The shadow moved away. I waited 10 minutes before I dared move. Grabbed my phone. Called 911 with shaking hands. The police came. Searched the patio area. Found footprints in the dirt beneath my window. Size 11 men's boots. And cigarette butts. 7 of them. Suggesting whoever it was had been standing there a lot longer than the 5 minutes I'd been aware of them. How long have you lived here? The officer asked. 6 months. You might want to consider moving. Those cigarette butts aren't fresh. Some of them have been there a while. This wasn't the first time someone's been watching your window. I moved out 2 weeks later. Never spent another night in that apartment. And I still can't sleep in a ground floor bedroom, because sometimes late at night I still hear it. That breathing, that patient, steady breathing of someone who's learned exactly how you sleep. Story 2. The man in the backyard. This story comes from my friend Sarah, who lived in a suburban neighborhood in Ohio. Sarah was home alone on a Tuesday night. Her husband worked night shifts at the hospital, so she was used to being by herself. She just settled onto the couch with a book when their motion sensor light in the backyard suddenly turned on. Their yard backed up to a small woods. The motion sensor went off occasionally when deer or raccoons passed through, so Sarah didn't think much of it at first. Then it went off again, and again, and again. Something was moving back there. Something big enough to keep triggering the sensor. Sarah went to the kitchen window and looked out. The backyard was empty. The light turned off. She went back to her book. 3 minutes later, the light came on again. This time, when Sarah looked out the window, she saw him. A man. Standing at the edge of their yard. Right where the grass met the tree line. Just standing there. Facing the house. Not moving. Sarah's blood went cold. She ducked below the window, grabbed her phone, and called her husband. "There's a man in our backyard," she whispered. "Call the police. Right now. I'm on my way home." Sarah called 911, staying low, watching the backyard from the edge of the window. The man was still there, still standing, still staring at the house. The light went off. Darkness. Sarah couldn't see if he was still there. Then it came back on. He'd moved. Closer. Now he was in the middle of the yard. Closer to the house. Still staring. "Ma'am, officers are 3 minutes away," the 911 dispatcher said. "Stay on the line with me. Can you still see him?" "Yes. He's getting closer." "Light off." Sarah's heart hammered. Light on. The man was now near the patio, 20 feet from the house. She could see him clearly now. Middle-aged, wearing dark clothes. His face was wrong. Too still. Like a mannequin. "Officers are pulling onto your street now," the dispatcher said. The man's head tilted, like he'd heard something. Then he turned and walked calmly back across the yard. Into the woods. Gone. The police searched the woods for an hour. Found nothing. No footprints in the soft dirt. No broken branches. No sign anyone had been there at all. But Sarah's Ring camera had recorded everything. The man standing at the tree line. Walking closer. Closer. Then disappearing into the woods as the sirens approached. When police enhanced the video and zoomed in on the man's face, Sarah wished they hadn't, because he wasn't looking at the house randomly. In every frame, his eyes were locked on the exact window where Sarah had been watching from. Like he knew, like he could see her looking at him. Sarah and her husband moved 6 months later, but she still has nightmares about that face. That too-still mannequin face that somehow knew exactly where she was. Story 3. The knocking pattern. This happened to a Reddit user named Tom who was house-sitting for his parents in rural Vermont. The house was isolated. Nearest neighbor half a mile away. Tom had grown up there, knew every sound the old house made, so he wasn't nervous about being alone. The knocking started at 11 p.m. 3 knocks on the front door. Firm. Deliberate. Tom looked through the peephole. Nobody there. He opened the door, looked around. The porch was empty. The driveway was empty. No car. No person. Nothing. Kids, he thought. Probably teenagers playing ding-dong ditch. He went back to watching TV. 20 minutes later. 3 knocks. Front door. Same pattern. Same firmness. Tom checked again. Nothing. But this time he noticed something. Muddy footprints on the porch. Fresh. Leading up to the door. But not leading away. He went back inside, locked the door, and continued watching TV with the volume lower now. Listening. 20 minutes later. 3 knocks. Tom stood up, heart starting to race, and crept to the door. Looked through the peephole before the person could leave. What he saw made his stomach drop. A face, right there, inches from the peephole, looking directly at him, smiling. Tom jerked back, stumbled, fell, scrambled to his feet, grabbed a kitchen knife, called 911. Someone's at my door. They keep knocking. They're still there. While he was on the phone with police, the knocking moved. Now it was at the kitchen window. 3 knocks. Then at the living room window. 3 knocks. Then at the back door. 3 knocks. Whoever it was, they were circling the house, knocking at every entrance, every window, the same pattern. 3 knocks, 20-minute intervals, but they were moving faster now. Front door, side window, back door, basement window, garage. 3 knocks, 3 knocks, 3 knocks. Officers are 10 minutes away, the dispatcher said. Stay inside. Don't open any doors. The knocking stopped. Complete silence. Tom waited, knife gripped in his sweating hand, listening to nothing. Then the sound that still makes his blood run cold. The doorknob to the back door rattling. Someone testing to see if it was locked. Then the sound of something metal scraping at the lock. They were trying to pick it. Tom ran to the front of the house, ready to bolt if they got in. Police sirens in the distance. The scraping at the lock stopped. Tom heard footsteps, running, away from the house. Police found fresh footprints circling the entire house. Found scratches on the back door lock where someone had tried to pick it. Found cigarette butts in the tree line where someone had apparently been watching the house. But they never found who did it. Never found any identification. And Tom refuses to house sit for anyone anymore, because he says sometimes late at night in his own apartment in the city he hears it. 3 knocks. And he knows that whoever was at that door might have followed him. ## story 4. The CAR that wouldn't leave this story is from a woman named Jennifer who was driving home late from work in Michigan. It was winter, dark by 5 p.m. Jennifer left her office at 7, started the 40-minute drive home through mostly rural roads. About 10 minutes in, she noticed headlights behind her. Nothing unusual, but they stayed there, matching her speed exactly. When she slowed down, they slowed down. When she sped up, they sped up. Jennifer told herself she was being paranoid. Lots of people take this road. It didn't mean anything. She turned onto a smaller road. The headlights turned too. Another turn. They followed. Now Jennifer's heart was pounding. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone was following her. She sped up. The car behind her sped up. She was going 70 on a road posted for 45. The car stayed right on her tail, close enough that she could see it was a dark SUV. Couldn't see the driver. Couldn't see the plates. Just those headlights in her rearview mirror like eyes. Jennifer's house was still 20 minutes away. She couldn't lead this person to her home. So she did what they tell you to do. She drove to the police station. Or she tried to. Because when she pulled out her phone to GPS the nearest station, the SUV suddenly accelerated and pulled alongside her. Jennifer screamed, swerved right. The SUV matched her movement, staying right next to her. She couldn't see the driver. The windows were tinted, but she could feel them looking at her. Then the SUV did something that still makes Jennifer shake when she talks about it. It started swerving toward her, trying to run her off the road. Jennifer accelerated, hit 90. The SUV kept pace, kept swerving, trying to force her into the ditch. There was a 24-hour gas station ahead. Lights, people, safety. Jennifer aimed for it. The SUV fell back slightly. Jennifer pulled into the gas station, slammed on her brakes, ran inside screaming for someone to call the police. The SUV pulled in behind her, parked, turned off its lights, and sat there. The gas station attendant called 911. Jennifer stood inside, shaking, watching the SUV through the window. It just sat there, not moving, not leaving, just sitting. Police arrived 6 minutes later, approached the SUV carefully. It was empty, driver door wide open, like whoever was inside had just vanished. Police searched the area, found nothing, checked the plates, stolen from a car in Ohio 3 months earlier. The SUV itself was reported stolen from Indiana, but when they processed the vehicle, they found something in the back seat that made Jennifer's blood run cold. A Polaroid camera. And recent photos. Photos of Jennifer leaving her office, walking to her car, sitting at stoplights on her normal route home. Someone had been following her for a while, taking pictures, learning her routine. And that night, for reasons nobody knows, they decided to do more than just watch. Jennifer moved, changed jobs, varies her route everywhere she goes now. And she checks her rearview mirror constantly, because somewhere out there, someone has photos of her. And they know what she looks like when she's scared. Story 5. The face in the doorbell camera. This comes from a family in Texas who installed a Ring doorbell camera for security. The dad, Mike, got an alert on his phone at 3:22 a.m. Motion detected at front door. He was used to these alerts. Neighborhood cats usually triggered them. But he checked anyway. What he saw made him sit straight up in bed. Person, standing on his porch, facing the door, not moving, just standing there. Mike watched through the app. The person didn't knock, didn't ring the bell, just stood there, staring at the camera, or through it, at the door. Mike woke his wife, showed her the phone. Someone's on our porch. Call the police. Mike called 911 while watching the live feed. The person still hadn't moved, hadn't done anything, just stood there in the 3 a.m. darkness, face visible in the camera's night vision. The face was wrong, too pale, eyes too wide, mouth slightly open, expression blank. Sir, officers are 4 minutes away, the dispatcher said. Can you describe the person? It's a man, I think. Tall, wearing dark clothes. He's just standing there. He's not doing anything, just standing. The man's head tilted, slowly, like he heard Mike talking about him. Then he looked directly at the camera, directly at Mike through the phone screen, and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was too wide, too many teeth, like someone who'd learned how to smile from watching others but didn't quite get it right. Then the man raised his hand, pressed it against the door, spread his fingers, and just left it there, palm flat against the wood. Sir, what's he doing now? He has his hand on our door. He's not trying to open it, just touching it. Mike could hear sirens now. The man on the porch could too. His head tilted again. Then he turned and walked away, calmly, down the porch steps, across the lawn, into the street, and stood there in the middle of the road, facing the house, as police cars pulled onto the street. The man didn't run, didn't react to the police at all, just stood there in the street, staring at the house, while officers approached him. When they got within 10 feet, the man bolted, ran faster than Mike had ever seen anyone run. The officers tried to follow, but he was gone, disappeared into the neighborhood like a ghost. Police reviewed the doorbell footage. The man had been standing on the porch for 11 minutes before Mike's phone alerted. Just standing there, staring, waiting, and when they checked other cameras in the neighborhood, they found him. On 12 different doorbell cameras over the past 3 months. Always at night, always standing at the door, never knocking, never breaking in, just standing, watching, touching the door. They never caught him, never identified him. Mike's family still lives in that house, but they don't sleep well anymore. Because sometimes, the doorbell camera alerts at 3:22 a.m., and when Mike checks, there's never anyone there. But on the recording playback, you can see it. A shadow, moving across the porch. Too fast for the camera to catch clearly, but definitely there. Story 6. The tapping on the sliding glass door. This happened to my cousin Rachel, who lived in an apartment complex in Florida. Her unit was on the second floor with a small balcony overlooking the parking lot. Sliding glass door with vertical blinds. She kept them closed at night, but sometimes left the door cracked for fresh air. Rachel was watching TV around 10 p.m. when she heard it. Top, top, top. On the glass door. She muted the TV. Listened. Nothing. She went back to her show. Top, top, top. Rachel stood up, went to the blinds, hesitated. Her apartment was on the second floor. There was no way someone could be on her balcony. It had to be a branch, or a bird, or something normal. She pulled the blinds aside. Nothing. Empty balcony. Dark parking lot below. She closed the blinds and returned to the couch. Top, top, top. Rachel's hands were shaking now. She grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight, and threw the blinds open while shining the light outside. A man, hanging from the balcony above, dangling down, tapping on her sliding glass door with his foot, looking at her upside down, smiling. Rachel screamed, stumbled backward. The man pulled himself up and disappeared. She called 911, called her boyfriend, called building security. By the time anyone arrived, the man was gone. But security footage from the parking lot showed him climbing onto the third-floor balcony above Rachel's unit. Showed him lowering himself down. Showed him hanging there for almost 20 minutes. Tapping periodically. Waiting. And showed him, after Rachel discovered him, climbing back up and disappearing into the building. They never found him, never identified him, but other residents in the complex came forward after seeing the footage. He'd been doing this for weeks, different apartments, always hanging from balconies, always tapping, always disappearing before anyone could catch him. Rachel moved out immediately, won't live anywhere with balconies now, because she still has nightmares about that face, that upside-down smiling face in her window, and the patient tapping, like he had all the time in the world to wait for her to open the door. Story 7. The figure that matched my movements. This final story is from a man named David who lived in a rural area of Washington State. His house had a large window in the living room that faced the woods. At night, with the lights on inside, the window became a mirror. You couldn't see outside, just your own reflection against the darkness. David was washing dishes one night around 9 p.m. when he glanced at the window and saw his reflection doing the dishes. Except the reflection kept washing dishes for 2 seconds after he stopped. David froze, stared at the window. His reflection froze too. Now it matched his movements exactly. He convinced himself he'd imagined it. Too much coffee. Too tired. He went back to washing dishes. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the reflection wave. David wasn't waving. He was holding a plate, but the reflection's hand moved. A small wave, like someone trying to get his attention. David's heart hammered. He turned off the kitchen light. Suddenly the window wasn't a mirror anymore. It was a window looking out into darkness. And in that darkness, pressed against the glass from outside, was a face. His face, or something very close to his face. Same features, same hair, but wrong. The eyes were too dark. The smile was too wide, and it was mimicking him. When David raised his hand slowly, the thing outside raised its hand. When David tilted his head, it tilted its head. But the movements were delayed, just a half-second off, like it was copying him from memory rather than in real time. David backed away from the window. The thing outside backed away too, matching his movements, the smile growing wider and wider, until the mouth was too big for the face, until it couldn't possibly be human. Then it pressed both palms against the glass and started pushing. The window bent inward, glass creaking. David ran, grabbed his phone, locked himself in the bathroom and called 911. From the bathroom he could hear it, the sound of glass breaking, footsteps in his house, slow footsteps, walking through the house like they owned it. Then they stopped, right outside the bathroom door. A knock, 3 times, in the exact pattern David used when he knocked on doors. Then his own voice. "David? Are you okay in there? Let me in, buddy." David didn't answer, didn't move, barely breathed. The voice tried again. "Come on, David. Open the door. It's just me." The same voice. His voice, but wrong. Too flat, too perfect, like a recording. Police arrived 8 minutes later. Found the broken window. Found muddy footprints through the house, leading to the bathroom door, then leading back out through the window. But when they analyzed the footprints, they matched David's shoes exactly. Same size, same tread pattern, same wear marks. Like David had broken into his own house and tried to get into his own bathroom. David moved in with family that week. Put the house on the market. During the final walkthrough before closing, he went into the bathroom one last time. On the mirror, written in the dust that had accumulated, were 2 words in his own handwriting. "I'm outside. David hasn't gone back. Won't talk about it beyond the basic facts." But his family says sometimes they catch him staring at windows at night. And when they ask what he's looking at, he says he's checking to make sure his reflection is doing what he's doing. Because ever since that night, he's not entirely sure it always does. That's 7 stories. 7 moments when someone realized they weren't alone. When they understood that something or someone was outside, watching, waiting, testing boundaries. If any of these stories made you check your windows, made you aware of sounds you hadn't noticed before, or made you think twice about that shadow in your peripheral vision, good. Because the scariest stories are the ones that could be true. The ones that happen in normal houses on normal nights to normal people who just happen to look outside at exactly the wrong moment. Drop a comment telling me which story scared you the most. And check your locks before you go to bed tonight. Subscribe for more horror stories. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next collection. And remember, if you hear something outside tonight, if you see something that doesn't quite match your movements, if you notice someone standing where no one should be standing, maybe don't investigate alone. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and sleep well if you can.